I have never seen so much press in my life.
Well, it must be a very slow news month.
Well, the secretaries at ELQ all have their TVs on in their cubicles.
Is Ned and his wife coming?
No, absolutely not. I told him to stay home. We don't need any more lives disrupted in this.
Oh, the look on that face. He must practice it every morning in the mirror, the despicable human being. Morning, Counselor.
Morning.
May I have a moment?
Certainly. I'll be right back.
I wonder what that's about.
Probably nothing. I'm going to have to file a motion to amend my witness list.
That's fine, as long as you give me the revised version.
Well, that may be a problem, because if the motion is granted, I'm going to have to call this person as my first witness. I just thought you should know.
Well, that's very considerate of you. So in a similar spirit of fraternity, I think it's only right to let you know that I intend to block that motion. You've got a hell of a lot of nerve. You know that, bringing in a witness at the last minute? Who is this? The client's mother? You need a character reference?
No, it's not his mother. In fact, if it's any consolation, I'm going to have to treat this witness as hostile.
Dorman's trying to get in a surprise witness.
All rise.
Ned.
All right, come on, go ahead.
Please be seated.
Do you know why they subpoenaed Ned?
Mr. Graff, are you ready to call your first witness?
I am, Your Honor, but first I need to file a motion to amend my witness list.
Your Honor, Mr. Graff only informed the defense of this addition 2 minutes ago, which gives us no time to prepare for any...
Sorry, Your Honor, I was only made aware of Mr. Ashton's significance to this case a couple of hours ago myself.
Your Honor, that's no reason to penalize my client. I am now forced to conduct this cross without preparation.
In an ideal world, Miss Davis, we'd all have time to prepare for every eventuality. And while I dislike last-minute changes as much as anyone, I dislike long, drawn-out trials even more, particularly when they've turned into leering public entertainment.
My client and her family are the ones that suffer the most from the public's prurient interests in this case.
I advise you to take a different tack, Counselor. I mean, the suffering of the richest, most powerful family in this town isn't likely to garner much sympathy.
I strenuously object to
Save
this.
your strength, or you'll wear yourself out before you get your shot at the witness. Let's get on with it.
Everything all right?
Yeah, the judge is going to allow your last-minute witness.
Perfect.
No, it's not perfect, Pierce. This whole thing could backfire.
It won't. Assuming you do your job right.
Call your witness, Mr. Graff.
I do.
Please be seated.
We have to talk. Your Honor, we request a recess.
Oh, come on!
We've already gone over this, Counselor. Your request for a delay was denied.
My client isn't feeling well. She needs a moment.
They're stalling, Your Honor. How long are you going to drag this out?
Long enough for due process to occur. That concept is still familiar to you, isn't it?
Your client looks well enough to continue to me. Your request for a recess is denied.
But, Your Honor...
Miss Davis, I'm an old-fashioned judge. I like order in my courtroom, and I believe that justice is served best when served quickly. Am I making myself clear?
Of course, Your Honor, and I share your sentiments. However, I do feel that we have a right to a recess at this point.
I also hate any sentence that begins with the word however. Break's over, Miss Davis. Let's get back to work. Mr. Graff, please continue.
Your Honor, before we start, I respectfully request that Mr. Ashton be classified as a hostile witness.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sit down, Ms. Davis. State your reasons.
Well, to begin with, Mr. Ashton is related to Dr. Quartermain by marriage. Mr. Ashton lives on the Quartermain compound right here in Port Charles. Mr. Ashton has business dealings with the defendant, and Mr. Ashton was subpoenaed to testify.
Request granted. For the record, Mr. Graff will be allowed to treat Mr. Ashton as a hostile witness by asking leading questions without pointless objection. Proceed.
State your name, please.
Edward Lawrence Ashton.
And what is your occupation, Mr. Ashton?
I am Chief Executive Officer of ELQ Enterprises.
And before ELQ, what did you do?
I did a number of different things.
Such as?
Professional singer.
And that was under the alias of Eddie Main, is that correct?
Yes. Stage name.
I see. Were there any other jobs that you'd care to mention?
Oh, yes. Dorm monitor at my boarding school. But I never considered that as a career choice.
What about tennis, Mr. Ashton? Did you ever have a job teaching tennis?
A job? Well, I guess you could call it that. I didn't do that for very long.
Well, let me be more specific. Were you ever a tennis instructor at an establishment called Green Meadows Spa?
I recall working there, vaguely.
Do you also recall going by the alias of Mr. Ward when you worked there?
I can't say that I do. As a matter of fact, I recall very little about that period of my life.
Well, perhaps I can help. I have here a copy of your work record at Green Meadows under the name of Mr. Ward. I also have an affidavit from the activities director testifying that he identified pictures of you as those of Mr. Ward.
Your Honor, none of this has relevance to the matter at hand.
It will, Your Honor, if I am allowed to continue.
Proceed.
Mr. Ashton, I have more than a dozen documents here asserting that during your tenure at Green Meadows Spa, you went under the name of Mr. Ward. And yet you have no recollection of this whatsoever?
Let's call it a vague recollection.
A vague recollection. Good. We're getting somewhere. Now, is it also true that while you were teaching tennis at Green Meadows, you had occasion to meet Dr. Monica Quartermain?
Yes.
In fact, you became quite friendly with your aunt.
Oh, I had no idea she was my
Please,
aunt.
Mr. Ashton, just answer the question.
We barely knew each other.
Really? That's funny because I have all of these affidavits attesting to the fact that under the alias of Ward, you spent a significant amount of time with Dr. Quartermain, both on and off the tennis courts. Would you like me to read them, Mr. Ashton? Or would you like to amend your answer?
We were friends.
You were intimate friends.
Objection.
Weren't you, Mr. Ashton? Please.
Overruled.
Mr. Ashton, did you have sexual relations with your aunt, Dr. Monica Quartermain? I'm sure I don't have to remind you of the penalties for perjury. They're quite severe, Mr. Ashton. Let me ask the question again. Did you have sexual relations with Dr. Monica Quartermain?